In a distant castle resides a young boy known as the Duke of Death. Cursed by an evil witch, his touch brings death to any living thing it brushes against. As a result, his noble mother has banished him to a mansion far away from society. His only company is Alice, a loyal maid who, despite knowing his touch would be fatal, enjoys tempting him with her body so she can enjoy his reactions, and the Duke always worries for her safety, as he's determined not to lose her to his curse. At the age of 5, the Duke was cursed by a witch for reasons unknown to him. The Duke wishes to break the curse and return home. Alice, who arrived 2 years ago, is not only his maid, but also his childhood friend, and is the only one who spends time with him. One day, Alice informs the Duke that his childhood friend Philip wishes to meet him. Duke agrees, and is excited to reconnect with his old friend, and hopes to have friendship again. Philip arrives with guards who deter Duke from getting too close, ruining Duke's hopes. Philip is terrified when the Duke accidentally touches a plant, causing it to wither away instantly. Philip tries to convince Alice to leave Duke. However, Duke overhears their conversation and sternly warns Philip to stay away from Alice. Terrified, Philip calls Duke a monster, admits he was forced by Duke's mother to spy on him, and reveals her plan to replace Duke with his younger brother as the heir. Philip leaves, vowing never to return again. Duke is heartbroken and calls himself a monster because his touch brings death, preventing him from touching the one he loves. However, Alice's kind words cheer him up, and he makes a vow to break his curse and confess his love to her. Rob, the Duke's elderly butler, returns to the mansion. Rob was the only one who accompanies him to the castle and is like a father figure to Duke. However, Duke is also concerned for Rob's well-being due to his bad eyesight, which puts him at constant risk of accidentally bumping into Duke. Duke begins focusing on his piano, hoping to one day make a living writing songs. Alice also arrives to clean the room, but while she is there, Duke can't focus, so he asks her to stop cleaning and listen to his song. As Duke plays a beautiful song for Alice, he confesses that he wrote it specifically for her, expressing his feelings for her through music. As Duke falls asleep at the piano, Alice leans in, nearly kissing him but pulls away at the last moment. As Duke enjoys his peaceful morning, the atmosphere is suddenly changed by the arrival of Viola, Duke's lively little sister. Viola, though cute, has an annoyingly girly personality that can be quite overwhelming. Viola quickly notices that Duke is infatuated with Alice and playfully teases him about it. After her teasing, Viola surprisingly tells Duke to break his curse quickly so he can come home. As she leaves, she accidentally bumps into Rob, revealing her crush on him. Later, an unfamiliar cat enters the mansion, unsettling Duke, who fears its touch might be lethal. Rob discovers a note on the cat's collar, a plea for forgiveness, leaving Duke puzzled. Releasing it outside, Duke sees it actually has a family. Later that night, Duke reminisces about a story of Alice's mother and his grandfather dancing. He asks Alice to dance with him, and even though it's a challenge due to his curse, they manage to waltz without touching each other. After their dance, Duke asks Alice how she feels about him, and she admits she loves him. Duke plays a pool game with Alice, and the loser has to obey the winner's request. However, Duke loses the game which was going to win because he gets distracted by Alice's actions. And as the winner, Alice asks him to accompany her to the town festival. Arriving at the town, Duke wears a heavy costume to prevent any harm. Alice expresses her wish for a date like this, but they get separated in the crowd. A masked woman recognizes Alice as the daughter of Sharon Lendrit, sparking intrigue. Meanwhile, lost in the crowd, Duke finds a lost child and tries to help him. He spots a piano and decides to play it. As he plays the piano, the crowd gathers around him, enjoying the music. The lost child's mother is reunited with her son. Finally, Alice finds Duke, and they enjoy the rest of the festival together. After seeing a novelty mask of his face, Duke realizes rumors about his curse are spreading. Alice then tells Duke a tale of a princess who sends a kiss to her imprisoned prince on the moon each year. Duke becomes depressed that even on a date he cannot touch Alice, but she assures him that being close is enough. Later, Alice's invitation leads Duke to her room, where her playful demeanor belies a deeper intention. Instead of the expected mischief, Alice helps Duke relax and fall asleep, their bond deepening in the quiet moments. Before he sleeps, Duke invites Alice to go out with him on the night after the next. On the promised night, Duke plans a romantic boat ride to watch a meteor shower, but a mishap occurs as Alice falls into the water, and he is unable to catch her. Alice demands a kiss, even if it kills her, but when he refuses, she reveals it was a trick so she could tip him in the water as well. They miss the meteors, and Duke is upset he couldn't tell Alice he loves her like he planned. Alice doesn't mind and tells him to try again next time. The next day, Duke becomes concerned when Alice starts avoiding him, and her usual playful and teasing behavior disappears. Duke assumes that Alice's change in behavior is due to their interaction the previous night. However, he notices something and has Rob check her forehead, and is relieved to learn that she's just suffering from a cold. As Alice recovers, she asks Duke to spend the day in the snow, offering Duke a scarf she's knitted herself. As promised, the next morning Duke and Alice venture out to play in the snow. They spend the entire day enjoying the snowy landscape together, and Rob is pleased to see Duke so happy. Returning inside, Alice noticed she dropped an earring that belonged to her mother. She tried to go back, but the wind was too strong. Duke sneaks outside to locate it, but passes out in the cold. A nearby bat looking for food transforms into a girl and helps him recover. When she discovers he is a noble helping a maid, she decides he has potential. She uses magic to find the earring and introduces herself as Cuff, a witch. Duke learns she can't break his curse, invites Cuff inside, and introduces her to Alice, who is happy about the earring being found. They give her food, and Cuff explains that she got separated from her friend. She shares her distrust of humans due to her parents being killed by witch hunters. Being half human, witches avoid her, and she never learns about curses. She reveals her friend might know something, but when Duke suggests she seems to really like her friend, she jumps out a window and vanishes. Alice reminisces about one of the last times Duke was able to touch her, defending her from bullies, and he claimed snow makes her look like a snow fairy. Viola visits and becomes flustered upon seeing Rob. Viola, wanting to understand Alice's personality better, insists that Alice must learn how to make a cute face using her own method, which she calls the Viola method. Unfortunately, Alice is already a master at appearing cute when it comes to Duke. However, when Rob shows up, Viola embarrasses herself by attempting to make a cute face at him. Later, Viola visits again, and notices Alice and the Duke in the kitchen. She insists on helping Alice cook, but she keeps getting distracted by Rob's presence. Viola expresses envy over Duke's support, and urges Duke to find a cure for his curse. Days later, Duke takes Alice ice skating, meeting a talking crow who is searching for his friend. The crow reveals that he is actually a magic user and also Cuff's childhood friend. He then transforms and introduces himself as Zayn. Alice reveals she actually found Cuff in her bat form on the ice and helps her warm up. During ice skating, Duke is jealous of Cuff and Zayn's closeness, while Zayn envies Duke and Alice's emotional connection. They all enjoyed the day together, ice skating and creating joyful memories. After that, before leaving, Cuff suggests taking Duke to the witch's Sabbath, a place where they might find a way to break his curse. Viola decides to stay the night in Alice's room, where they discuss love and Viola's desire for an older sister since her mother tended to ignore her. Duke also shows up looking for her, and Alice advises Duke to pay more attention to Viola and their relationship. Duke notices that his conservatory is overgrown with plants. Using his curse to his advantage, he carefully trims the unnecessary plants. Despite them being dead, he braids the flowers into a crown for Alice. Later that night, the Duke hears Alice's voice, and finds a cat stealing Alice's gown while she showers. The Duke decides to find her gown. Alice tags along, and Duke lends her his coat to wear, providing ample opportunities for playful teasing between them. They find the cat and the gown ruined, which upsets Alice as it was one the Duke liked. She wears her uniform instead, and Duke is faced with the difficult task of turning down her invitation to shower together. Zayn and Cuff arrive to take Duke to the Sabbath, and Alice insists on tagging along. Cuff provides them with robes to disguise themselves as witches for the event. They arrive at the Sabbath, and Duke seems a bit nervous. Daleth, the masked lady, is there as well, and Zayn explains that she's their leader. Duke is surprised when the Sabbath turns out to be a brief administrative meeting. Daleth confronts Alice and Duke, revealing her limited interactions with Alice's mother and Duke as a child. She also states that the witch who cursed Duke is dead, and due to her exceptional magical abilities, the curse might be irreversible. She then burns their disguises, forcing them to flee. Duke reflects on Zayn and Cuff's assistance, their belief in him, and their promise of friendship in the future. Duke remains determined to find a cure. The next day, Alice buys a magic pot used by witches to brew a potion and tells the Duke that she is going to make a love potion with it, which instantly gives him the wrong idea. Interestingly, the pot only needs words to heat up. They put all the ingredients, and Alice reveals it wasn't a love potion. Instead, it's a potion to remove the Duke's curse. But unfortunately, it does not work. Looking for a different approach, Alice finds a musical note and has Duke perform a song that, if played perfectly, can cure curses. Duke plays the piano and is visited by the ghost of the songwriter who tries to distract him by getting close to Alice. Duke finally plays the song to perfection, and the ghost, having heard his masterpiece, moves on. Later, the Duke visits Alice. Remembering the suspension bridge effect that he learned from Viola, he decides to scare Alice, but his attempt fails miserably. The Duke doesn't give up on scaring Alice and continues his failed attempts. However, things take a different turn when he nearly curses a flower that Rob has been cultivating for 50 years. Overwhelmed with guilt and fear, Duke runs away and ends up hiding under his bed with Alice. Rob finds them and reveals that the flower pot contained stolen jewelry belonging to Duke's grandmother. Duke and Alice wake up in a dreamland. Alice explains about a book spirit who appeared while they were in the library and offered to fulfill one wish if they catch a rabbit with a wristwatch. Alice has Duke grope her breast, but as it is a dream, Duke is disappointed he can't actually feel it. The rabbit the book spirit wants to catch passes nearby, and they spend the entire night chasing it, having fun in the process. They decide to end their dream adventure with a kiss, but Duke wakes up in his own library before they can. The book spirit disappears, warning Duke not to call her again. Cuff asks Duke to teach her to learn reading and writing, hoping to impress Zayn. Meanwhile, Walter, Duke's brother, tries to stop Viola from visiting Duke, feeling resentful about their mother's favoritism and Viola's preference for Duke. His inferiority complex as the younger brother plays a role in his actions. Viola visits Duke's mansion and comes across Cuff, mistaking her for an intruder. Viola tries to apprehend her, but Cuff thinks of Viola as a child who wants to play. Viola takes advantage of this to pin Cuff down on the floor. The situation becomes awkward when Rob witnesses Viola sitting on top of Cuff. During a snowstorm, Alice reminisces about her first time at the mansion when Duke was younger. He was still depressed about his curse and would destroy entire rooms in the mansion out of anger. Back then, he had no memory of Alice as his childhood friend. At first, he rejected Alice's presence, but being his childhood friend, she refused to leave him alone. In response, he set her a challenge: to clean the bedroom he had destroyed in 3 days without any help or face being fired. However, Alice worked tirelessly and managed to clean the room in just one night, surprising the Duke. He had been hoping that she would give up for her own good. This incident ultimately led the Duke to run away from the mansion. After almost dying in the cold, a memory of Alice from his past emerged in the Duke's mind. In this moment of desperation, Alice managed to locate him and scolded him for his reckless behavior. Knowing there would be people who would miss him, especially when she was alone and sick as a child, he was the one who helped her feel better. Duke agreed to return to the mansion with her and realized he had begun to fall in love with her. On Christmas Eve, the Duke's mother advises Viola to stay home and spend time with family, while also commenting on her choice of clothing. Viola still decides to gift Rob a handkerchief at Duke's Christmas party, and Walter secretly follows her to Duke's mansion, disguised as her driver. During the Christmas party preparations at Duke's place, Zayn awkwardly reveals his uncertain feelings for Cuff, attempting to offer her a compliment. However, Cuff falls asleep, leaving it uncertain if she heard him or not. Viola accidentally drops Rob's gift, only for it to be picked up by Walter, who has infiltrated the mansion, hoping to see Duke depressed and alone. He finds a costume and disguises himself as Santa. However, he is caught by Cuff, who mistakes him for the real Santa. Walter gives her Viola's gift, and Cuff tries to help by dropping him down the chimney. Walter continues to try to act like Santa, but his disguise is immediately recognized by Viola. Duke is glad to see Walter after years. Cuff brings Viola's gift, and a fight between Viola and Cuff breaks out. Walter confronts Duke about the shadow of being his potential replacement. However, girls' fight bothers them, so Duke mediates between Viola and Cuff, resolving the misunderstanding regarding the gift. Walter wagers with the Duke that whoever discovers the cure to the Duke's curse becomes the heir. He then tries to leave in a cool way but failed. Everyone enjoys the party, but Walter finds himself stuck outside, realizing he can't go without Viola. After the party, when everyone is gone, Alice playfully teases Duke, requesting a kiss under the mistletoe. The request brings back a flood of memories for Duke, reminding him of the first time he confessed his love to Alice. Alice dreams of her mother, Sharon, who used to be a head maid when they were younger. Sharon was beautiful and perfect in her work, and respected by everyone. Alice's weak health led her to wander around the mansion, and during that time, she developed a fondness for Duke. Viola notices their mother's anger over Viola and Walter missing Christmas dinner. Meanwhile, Zayn sends Cuff on a shopping trip alone after Viola points out his tendency to be overprotective of her. Cuff, however, faces confusion between money and cash during her shopping, but manages. The trip takes an unexpected turn when she encounters a young pickpocket and accidentally almost injures him. This prompts Zayn to revert to his protective ways and intervene in the situation. Later that night, Duke struggles to sleep, prompting Alice's attempt to offer comfort by joining him in bed. Except her sleeping nude makes his sleeplessness worse. As they lie together, Alice asks Duke about his mother. Duke admits he doesn't feel strongly about her and would even leave the family if they tried to separate him from Alice. Alice asks him not to do that. Alice then worries that Duke might have to choose between her and his family in the future. Later, Rob is relieved to see Duke smiling and reflects on his role in Duke's life. He recalls how he was tasked with raising Duke away from the family, and blamed himself for Duke's isolation and depression until he brought in Alice, someone close to Duke's age who has become precious to him. Duke asks Alice to sing while he plays the piano. He plays the owl and the pussycat on the piano. Though at the end of the song, they both end up embarrassed. Alice returns to her room, contemplating the uncertainty of their future. Viola searches the family mansion for clues, and Walter also helps her. She finds an old servant's logbook. Viola then encounters her mother, who forces her to start wearing proper long dresses to prepare for marriage. Viola, disagreeing with her mother's decision, makes a pivotal choice and decides to move in with Duke. Later that night, Viola decides to stay with Alice, and to their surprise, Cuff is already there waiting for them. Viola then gives Alice the servant logbook written by Alice's mother. It reveals that Daleth is spying on them through the owl's eyes. Daleth calls Zayn to deliver a message to Alice and Duke. At the mansion, Alice uncovers a significant detail from the logbook. 2 witches visited the mansion around the time the Duke was cursed and suspect Daleth. Zayn warns the Duke to avoid witches as Daleth orders, but he has no intention of obeying. Alice later inadvertently overhears Duke confessing his profound love for her to Zayn. Afterward, Alice can't find her logbook and it reveals that Zayn steals the logbook, acting under Daleth's order, who threatens him, intending to burn it. But when Duke catches him, he feels guilty and returns the logbook. Zayn tells Duke about the logbook containing hidden information about Daleth and how she used Cuff to threaten him. Duke tells him to burn it for Cuff's safety, so instead Zayn disintegrates it, leaving one piece, telling Duke that Daleth is watching, but once she stops, he can restore it with his magic. Daleth believes the logbook is gone, ends her surveillance, and unveils her face and Sharon's body in a coffin. Duke receives a letter from his mother summoning him to the main house within a week. On the day of his departure, Alice asks Duke if she can accompany him too. Duke, accompanied by Alice, finally arrives at the main house where Viola and Walter greet them and lead Duke to their mother. After years, Duke finally comes face to face with his mother, but their conversation cuts short as she sends him to bed so they can talk in the morning. Duke is surprised when Viola claims Mother was actually in a good mood. On the other hand, all the servants of the house are happy to see Alice again. In the hallway, Duke's mother encounters Alice and mistakes her for Sharon. The maid explains that Duke's mother and Sharon were friends, but after Sharon's death, her behavior changed. The next morning, while accompanying Duke, Viola leads him to the very garden where the witch cursed him to love no one, be loved by no one, and live a life of misery, and Duke couldn't see her face. Their mother arrives, telling stay away from Duke, and scolds Viola's dressing, and instructs Duke to meet her at dinner. Viola tells Duke she and Walter are jealous of Duke since at least he lives away from their mother. At dinner, Gerbera, Duke's mother, explains that with their father terminally ill, they must decide on the family heir, and gives Duke until spring to break his curse, or Walter will become heir. Duke then tells his mother about Alice and praises her. Gerbera figures he like Alice but refused to let him marry a maid. Duke then gives her an impassioned speech about his love for Alice, like when she left him live alone in the mansion, Alice was the who supported him. And if Alice was not there, he would have already dead. He accuses her of treating her children like possessions before storming out. Privately, Gerbera is proud Duke was able to stand up to her. In the end, Duke returns home with Alice, sharing the details of his encounter with Gerbera and reaffirming his desire to marry her. Alice waits for Duke to fall asleep before saying that she loves him too.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this. If you have any suggestions or questions, feel free to leave a comment below. Until next time, take care.